Hey, Commanders! Today, we're diving into the heart of conflict of nations, where your armies are not just troops on a map, they're born from a specific doctrine. But what exactly is a military doctrine, and why does it matter? Have you ever wondered why your air superiority fighter lost against the enemy's superiority fighter even though they had the same health and attack damage? Or why some of the same units look different to others? Well, this is because of doctrines. Doctrines are what guides a country's military plan. Doctrines do not only include military tactics and strategy, but also the larger policies and procedures of a country in light of its history, resources, and landscape. Now, let's talk doctrines in conflict of nations. We will first start off by talking about the Western Doctrine. The Western Doctrine is sometimes also referred to as the American Doctrine. This is more of a less defensive and more offensive doctrine. Let's now learn about its benefits in certain units. The Western Doctrine favors naval infantry by giving them a 15% health point boost and an extra 10% speed boost over other nations. It also favors armored combat vehicles by giving them an extra 3 health points. The Western Doctrine also gives main battle tanks an extra 10% of health points. By using the Western Doctrine, you don't only get extra boosts in tanks, you also get extra boosts in Air Force. For instance, you will get an extra 20% damage by attacking armored vehicles with your attack helicopters. The Western Doctrine also has the strongest air superiority fighter planes. They get an extra 10% aircraft damage. And also an extra 10% helicopter damage. The American Doctrine also gives you an extra 3 health points in your heavy bombers, and an extra 20% damage by using heavy bombers against infantry. That is not all. The American Doctrine also favors an early research of armored combat vehicles, theater defense systems, attack helicopters, and AWACS. So if you're a main tank and Air Force player, you should definitely consider choosing Western Doctrine nations. Now let's see to the European Doctrine. The European Doctrine focuses on speed and smaller armored units, mostly aimed to counterattack. This is because European Doctrine nations are very close together, meaning you go to war quite fast. Which is why it focuses on speed. The benefits for units of the European Doctrine are the following. An extra 25% of damage against infantry. And an extra 10% of speed for its mechanized infantry. An extra 10% of damage against infantry with main battle tanks. An extra 5% of damage for tank destroyers against armored units. And an extra 3 health points for tank destroyers. Mobile artillery also gets an extra 20% of health points. And a 5% extra damage boost against infantry. The European Doctrine also favors mobile anti-air, giving it an extra 20% of damage boost attacking helicopters. Finally, it also favors strike fighters, giving them an extra 20% of health points. As for the research, the European Doctrine favors early research of main battle tanks, SAM launchers, and gunship helicopters. Perfect, that's it for the European Doctrine. Now let's talk about the last doctrine, the Eastern Doctrine. The third doctrine is the Eastern Doctrine. The Eastern Doctrine is more of a defensive doctrine. If you're a defensive player, you should definitely try it out. The unit benefits for the Eastern Doctrine are as follows. An extra 10% of damage attack against infantry when using special forces. A 5% extra damage against armored units, and an extra 10% speed for main battle tanks. An extra 20% of damage against armored units for when using towed artillery. And finally, SAMs deal 20% extra damage against aircraft. Awesome! Now, knowing the specialties and positives of each doctrines, you now may be asking, how do I know the nations which take part of the Eastern Doctrine, for example? Well, first, it is important to know that there are different maps. Some have more nations than others. But for the standard maps, here are the doctrines. This is the doctrine map for the standard World War III map. You can find this image on our Discord server. The link for it is in the description. Military doctrines offer various advantages, and leveraging them can significantly enhance your gameplay. To make the most out of these doctrines, align your choice with your preferred strategy. For instance, if you heavily invest in building and utilizing Air Force units, the Western Doctrine is a suitable option. On the other hand, if your focus is on towed artillery and surface-to-air missiles, SAMs, the Eastern Doctrine is a better fit. For players keen on rapidly deploying strike fighters, the European Doctrine is recommended. A practical approach is to first decide on the types of units you intend to build in your upcoming game. Then, select the doctrine that provides the most benefits for deploying those specific units. This tailored strategy enhances your overall effectiveness on the battlefield. Utilizing military doctrines isn't limited to individual benefits. You can also coordinate with your team for a more strategic advantage. When starting a game with a team and planning to distribute production roles, e.g., one focusing on Navy, another on Air Force, and another on support units, it's essential to leverage military doctrines. Each team member should research and select a doctrine that aligns with their unit preferences. For instance, if someone wants to specialize in special forces, then he should go for a nation in the Eastern Doctrine. You can also apply this to alliance challenges. Collaborating on doctrine choices isn't just about aligning with individual unit preferences, it's also about coordinating with your coalition based on the overall strategy. For example, if you're starting a game with two friends, each of you can choose a separate doctrine and adopt a distinct playstyle, whether defensive, counterattacking, or aggressive. Each doctrine complements specific playstyles. For instance, a friend favoring a defensive style could choose the defensive doctrine, as Eastern Doctrine favors defensive units, while the one opting for an aggressive approach might choose the Western Doctrine. Meanwhile, a player keen on quick and counterattacking play could opt for the European Doctrine. This collaborative approach maximizes the effectiveness of your team's overall strategy. Awesome, that's all for today. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments, and if this video helped you understand more about doctrines. Then consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Good luck!